Okay, we'll start.
Feeling good about it? Everything
Yeah.
all right? Okay.
Yeah.
You hear me loud and clear?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Perfect. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to Voice Remos. And today is very special because I have Pastor Iki with me.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Before we talk, I would just want to introduce who Pastor Iki is. As far as I know him, you're the senior pastor, youth pastor?
No, senior pastor.
Senior pastor now of
Yeah.
LaSierra University.
Yes, LaSierra University Church. That's
That
right, in
is
Riverside,
so
California.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw you, I thought, oh, this guy's Filipino. But no, you're Tongan.
I'm Tongan from the South Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're known because of our cousins, the Samoans. Everybody knows Samoans.
Right.
We're the neighbors to the Samoans. Yeah.
You can take off your mask. I don't.
Sure?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I sanitize everything after.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds all right?
It's more connected.
Okay, cool. Good.
Yeah. So you were born there. How long did you stay in Tonga?
We moved over to the United States when I was 5, so about 1981. And we ended up living in Southern California down in LA.
Yeah, and I just wanted to talk to you about that real quick, your upbringing.
Yeah,
So you left Tonga, but
we did.
and you weren't documented, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah, we came in 81, and originally we had a visa. My father had that all set up for us. But after my mom had my sister and she got through all of her radiation treatment and stuff, eventually the visa ran out. And so we were undocumented, for, until I was a grown-up, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So as I was going through school, LaSierra University, when I was there, at that time is when I was able to get a work permit.
Okay.
Because they were letting us keep a work permit so that we can go through the court system. When we're going through the court system, our lawyer said, listen, there's no way this is going to pass.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to go through the deportation process. And then when they, at the other side of that, say you're not allowed to stay, we're going to appeal. And he said, basically what we're doing is just trying to buy you time. And then he said, what you need to do is get married. Find a citizen and get married so that you can get your visa to stay. At that time, my brother and I weren't really wanting to get married.
How old were you at that time?
I was about 26,
Okay,
27,
yeah.
And
Still undocumented.
Still undocumented.
Okay, wow.
But they gave us a worker's visa because we were in the court system. We were going through the court. So they said, well, while you're here, you can go to work and do some work. So I was at LaSierra University at the time, and I was working, but there was no actual visa.
Oh.
And the lawyer set up the whole thing where my sister, who then at that point was 21, was older than 21, was petitioning for my parents to stay because she was a legal citizen.
Yeah.
And so they, because of hardship, they were saying, okay, look, your parents, we should petition your sister to have petitioned your parents. And then we'll petition you and Rolando, my brother and I, who are adults. We're not minors anymore, to be petitioned under my parents because it would be a hardship for my parents to leave. So the tricky thing about that is you're not allowed, United States law, you're not allowed to petition for anyone unless you're a citizen.
Oh.
So you can see my parents aren't even green card holders.
No.
But they're piggybacking us on my parents, which is technically not
allowed.
Not allowed at all,
Yeah.
like not even close. You can't even be a green card and do that, let alone my parents who don't have a green card at all. So when we went to the court date, the lawyer was like, this is not going to pass. We're just doing it so we can appeal, so you can stay, so you can find a wife or somebody who can appeal for you. And when we went in, it was about a half an hour in, and our lawyer was like 120 years old. So like he was making the judge mad.
Yeah.
The judge was, he kept saying like, what did you say? And she's like, sir, turn your hearing aid up. But in half an hour, she decided, she made the ruling that my parents can stay and we could stay as well.
What?
Yeah, absolutely. This is all God, right?
Yeah.
The INS officer to the side was just livid. He was like, what's the precedence for this?
Yeah, right.
And she said, nope, I'm clearing all of them. So INS appealed us. They appealed our case because they said the judge must have had some kind of bias towards them or something. And then it went to the Supreme Court, and then we got a ruling back from them and said, no, we're going to stay with the judgment that the judge gave.
Wow.
So, I'm telling you, it's all God. It's all God. Yeah. 100.
So now you're a senior pastor in LaSierra.
Now I'm a senior pastor at LaSierra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went from LaSierra University I left and I went into ministry down in the LA area. I church planted down there. And it started off as a young adult church plant, and it just kind of grew into a family church, and amazing things happened there. About 16 years there. I jumped into the conference as a senior youth young adult director for about 4 years. And then as of May, I came back to LaSierra University as the LaSierra University Church senior pastor.
Wow.
And my youth pastor is Ben Amoa.
Yeah, I love
Pastor
Ben.
Ben. Shout out to Ben. That's my guy.
But how was growing up in LA as a young Tongan boy?
So it was tricky because we were undocumented.
Yeah, undocumented Tongan boy.
Yeah, but we didn't hang out with a lot of other Tongans.
Yeah.
So, and I ended up hanging out with Hispanics and Filipinos and African Americans in the urban city, and that became like my identity, right?
Okay.
Like, and it was really hard because I had a strong Tongan family, but I didn't have a strong Tongan community. And we only visited every so often. You know? Like I got to see some of my friends, my Tongan friends, and as we grew up together.
Yeah,
but I wasn't with them every day. Every day I was with my African American friends and my Filipino friends and my Hispanic friends, which I ended up marrying Filipino.
Yeah.
I guess they rose to the top. I don't know how that happened.
I also grew up with a lot of different cultures. I left the Philippines when I was 9 to go to the Middle East.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yo.
To be with my family were working there, my mom and dad. And we were exposed to a lot of different cultures, like Arabic cultures, Indian cultures. And I think it's really important for like kids and young adults and youth to be exposed in a lot of different cultures, right?
100, bro.
Yeah, it gives you that empathy.
Yes.
I think, I was debating on what my identity of my podcast is.
Yeah.
I think the more I do this, I think I just want to spread empathy.
Yes.
Because I think a sliver empathy in the world can just change everything.
It can change everything. It's a game changer. And when you're little and you're going through this, there's a bit of an identity crisis.
Oh yeah.
Because who am I, right? I mean, like I'm Tongan, but how much Tongan am I?
Yeah.
Am I Hispanic? Am I Filipino?
Yeah.
I love eating at all of their homes, so I don't know. Finding your place in this world, I think for me was kind of tricky, but it was when I finally settled, and I was like, okay, God, this is who I am, and God was like, okay, that's how I want you to be.
Yeah.
But it creates so much empathy, and I think you're right. If we could learn each other's story and listen better and grow.
Yeah, this is what I love about like just talking to people. I think I use my podcast as an excuse just to talk to people. And learn about them.
For sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you always were your family always religious or spiritual growing up?
Yeah, actually we were, and it was our faith that kept us like together, really. My brother, he kind of left the church and left God. He was kind of angry through his teenage years, and I never thought he'd come back. But it's the closeness of our family, the knit that we had, and our faith. And like as an adult, he came back like way later on.
Yeah.
And now we're together and spending time and growing, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I relate to that as well because my family is really, really like strict religious.
Is that right?
Yeah. And my little brother is really like close with my parents, and I'm not.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I feel like I connect with your brother because I've been on that journey of just leaving the church and just exploring the world and everything. I think I'm still on that journey, but I'm slowly seeing God again.
Yeah, hey man.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's I
encourage your journey, man. Listen,
you.
I think too often we go blindly into our faith, and the problem with that is if I'm sheltered and blinded by my faith, when I come across a challenge, I don't know. I don't know if I'm convicted on that or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
You should be on it. We're all on a journey, whether you know it or not.
Sure. Yeah.
So you should embrace that and be like, hey, where am I going? How's this going to turn out?
Yeah. Growing up, my parents would always like force me to go to church.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I don't want to.
Man, my brother hated that, man. Oh.
And then we have nightly worships.
Yeah.
Like mandatory nightly worships. It's like, what? I don't see the point in this.
Yeah.
But then when I started to leave and just not be in the house a lot, it's like I started to see God for who he is in my perspective. And I started to learn what he's like in my perspective and not my parents' perspective.
Ooh, man, I'm proud of you, man. Keep that going. My brother, we had that mandatory worship. Ooh, my brother was like, dude, he got to the point where he was like, he'd get his stuff, and then every time we start worship, he'd be like running out the house, making all kinds of noise. He's all upset and angry. I hear him peeling out in the driveway, you know. I was blessed because I grew up in this family, but I went away to boarding school. And going away to boarding school probably was one of the best things that happened to me because I got to learn who I was. I'm a third born. Which means I've got 2 siblings above me that are super outgoing. They're super like outspoken. My brother's the oldest, super sanguine. My sister's choleric. She knows what she wants. And so I was always the quiet one. And, you know, I never wanted to start in trouble. Like I didn't know my identity. But, when I went away to boarding school, that's when I got to figure out who I was. And then, like, the first time I ever ate out on Sabbath, like, was an old white couple that, like, took me out after church. And I was like, ooh, we're all going to die? Ooh, we're all going to die. You're taking me down. And I learned a lot that I would not have learned at home about faith and about choices and about life and just how big God is, you know. So.
I talked about that, too. Like, I think parents should let their kids make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of parents are like helicopter parents and just like make decisions for their children. And it's like kids are never given the opportunity to learn from those mistakes. And I think there's
a subtle message when parents do that.
Yeah.
And the subtle message is, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to make a choice. And parents have got to let kids make choices because what it instills in me as a child is, oh, you trust me to make this choice. And even if I make a bad choice, you've entrusted me with a choice. And now I learn from it, right? Now I learn, okay, that may not have been the best choice. So you come from the same kind of place I come from. It's the old world. It's the old school. Like,
old school.
I'm not going to let you make a choice. And then if you make a bad choice, I'm coming down hard on you. You know, like one of the things that we were always scared of growing up was getting hurt because then my mom would spank us. Like, wait a minute, Mom, I'm bleeding and you're going to be hurt too because you shouldn't have done that, right? So we're afraid to make mistakes. And you need to let kids make mistakes and learn and grow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think it's good that we realize that now because then we break the cycle.
Yes.
I think you would say probably that you're a very different parent than your parents. Would you say that?
I would say I'm a mixture of my parents.
Okay.
My dad is a very quiet, intelligent, sweet, kind man. He cries all the time. You know, just the sweetest guy. My mom is not that. She's like boisterous and outgoing and very strong-handed. And I'm a mix of those two. So as I'm parenting, I'm always having to check myself. I'm always having to be like, ooh, Ick, don't let mom come out. Don't let mom come out. Be dad. Be dad. And then there are moments where I need to be mom because, you know, she's outspoken and she speaks truth into our space. But so it's a matter of allowing the best parts of your parents to speak through you and then knowing what parts is not so healthy.
You're right. Wow. So I want to talk about Jody Cahill.
Let's go. That's my girl, man.
Well, who is she? Like, how significant is she in your life? What'd she do for you?
Jody Cahill is probably one of the most profound human beings in my life. And here's the thing. She's not a pastor. She's not a professor. She's not some administrator or big wig of any sort. She was just a woman who was running the missions department at the university. From the moment I met her, she spoke life into me. She said, look, this is what I believe God is going to call you to do. And she did that to me, Remo, let me tell you, over and over and over again. When she met my wife, we were just friends. I wasn't even interested in her. She said, that's the girl you're going to marry. I was like, man, Jody, you crazy. 2 years later, I proposed to this girl. I was like, dang it, man. And she did that all the time, right? One of the greatest lessons that I learned from her was that you don't need to be somebody with a title or a big name to make a big difference. Like too often we're like, man, I need to become the conference president, or man, I need to be this person, or man, I need to finally make it here before I can make a big splash in the world. And the truth is, we can make a huge splash wherever we are. Like right now, somebody's life can be changed by an interaction that we have when we live this space here. You know, and we got to be about that. She was about that, man. The first time I met her, it was in one of our midweek worships at the university. And I was standing there. She went to do the prayer, and this lady, she started praying, and then she cussed in her prayer, and I was like, I was like, what? What just happened right here?
She's real,
but she kept it 100, man. From that point forward, I was like, that's gonna be my pastor right there, because I knew that she wasn't gonna sugarcoat or lie to you or you know, create some facade about life. She was very real, and she also knew a very real God. And that kind of relationship really was just the most beautiful, profound thing. She's done this to hundreds of people, by the way. I when we had her memorial, everybody was like, Mama Jody, she was my mom. And I was like, no, she was my mom. She wasn't your mom. But like, you know, just tons of people that was blessed just because of who she was. And she wasn't some big wig, some big know-it-all, wasn't a great speaker.
I think that says a lot about how a significant impact anyone can have over somebody. Right?
100%.
Yeah, bro. For sure. I'm watching this show called Mike. It's about Mike Tyson. It's about his journey. It's just crazy because he grew up being put down by his mom's, like, you're nothing, you're useless, you're never gonna be anything. And then he meets his coach, Cuss. And he just tells him, you're the greatest, you're gonna be the best fighter in the world. And all that just changes his brain chemistry. And then he just tells himself that. And I think just putting out positivity in the world, just telling people that they're great is really life-changing.
It's life-changing, man. You're helping people begin to understand and see their potential. You know, I 100% agree with you, man. It's true. It's so true.
There's questions here from, I asked people if they wanted to ask questions.
Hey, while you look at that question, I was thinking about what you were saying right now. And you said something that just sparked a thought in my mind. Oh, and that is, it's amazing how what people tell us when we're kids affect us as grown-ups. Oh my goodness,
right? Yes.
The things that we hear about us, well, whether it's you're too fat, you should be more like your cousin. Oh man, we used to hear that all the time. Why aren't you more like your brother, or like this and that and this? And it's amazing how that affects us as adults, as grown-ups. You know, when you're in college, when you're a young adult. And if we don't find a way to process that out of our system, it's gonna follow us wherever we go. So I just want to be like, hey, are you paying attention to your internal stuff and where you came from? Because you've got to be able to process some of that stuff out.
It's crazy. I just realized that words are so powerful. It's people underestimate words so much.
Man.
Like, I'm a very judgmental person, and I'm really working on it.
Good on you, bro.
Yeah, and I think something that really helped is realizing that after every judgment I make, I say, just like me. Like, oh, that guy is such a attention-seeking person, just like me. And I think it really helped me to be less judgmental.
True. It helps to change at least your perspective on how you see that person, because then you're relating it to you, right?
All right. The first question is, how did you find your purpose?
How did I find my purpose? I think I've always had a sense of purpose, but it's just how I expressed my purpose. And I think that's what's important about being a follower of Christ. Listen, you need to figure out your purpose early on in life. And then how you express that purpose is how it's the variation of it, right? You may express that purpose through being a doctor or being a dentist or being an archaeologist. I decided that the best way I could express my purpose was through ministry. But ministry isn't a more sacred call than a teacher or a janitor, right? Or a mechanic. We all have a purpose. It's just a matter of how you express it. Now, I've always felt the calling to be an encourager, help people. I love making a difference in the world. And it just so happens that I express that through ministry.
Right.
But you do it every day through your podcasts.
I try.
Yeah. I mean, we all have ways that we express it. So finding purpose, I think, is something you need to do. And this is a problem with the world. A lot of times we tie our purpose to our job.
Yeah.
Or tie our purpose to our occupation, who we're becoming. Like, oh, you're going to be a doctor. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And that's problematic. Purpose is much deeper than that.
Thank you for that, Pastor. I want to talk about people who pretend. Like, there's a lot of pretenders there, especially in the church. They pretend that they're connected with God.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes I pretend too.
Yeah.
That I have this deeper connection with God.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that? Like, maybe you're just pretending.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm pretending. Sometimes I wake up on Sabbath and I'm like, I can't go preach. And then my wife's like, you got to, because you're the preacher. So I got to go, and I've got to move through that space. The problem isn't like when you go through it sometimes and you've got to kind of fake a funk. The problem is when you're intentionally faking all the time.
Oh.
That's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
So we got to separate the difference between being a real human being and being a hypocrite. Right?
Okay.
Being a real human being means you're not always going to feel like doing something even when you do it. Like, I don't always feel like making food for my kids, but I do
but
it.
you have to.
Right? Because they'll starve to death. So that's a part of being real. In church, you're not always going to feel like, yo, I love the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, like, but I'm going to serve him anyways. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to love God and want to be faithful to him and make a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? That's not being a hypocrite. Like, if I fail, it's not a hypocrite. It's me trying. A hypocrite is somebody who puts out the idea that they are something that they are just intentionally not. Right. And that's important because those people are fewer than the real people. But sometimes when we're being real, we feel like, am I being a hypocrite because, you know, I say I love the Lord, but I mess up? No, that's just real.
Okay.
Right? And that's okay. Like, I want to say that's okay. Look, you're going to make mistakes in life. That God's grace is large enough. Now, a hypocrite is people who's faking all the time. Like, they're like trying to be like, hey, you know, and they're living a double life on the side. And those kind of individuals are just unhealthy. You can tell because they just, you know, you could tell that they're always trying to control a situation. They don't want, it's just not good.
For sure.
It's not good.
And when you differentiate it, I think the common factor is a real person can look within themselves, have that introspection.
Yeah.
While the fake people don't have the introspection and just live a double life.
Yeah, they just live a double life.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
They're okay with that.
Yeah.
They got no qualms with that.
Cognitive dissonance, that's what it is.
They got no qualms with that. But see, the problem is these individuals who are being real, they see people like that and they're like, oh man, we've got to be perfect too. So when they make a mistake, when real people make a mistake, they think it's their job to hide it.
Oh,
and this is the problem, because then we come to church and everybody's hiding their real life, and now everyone thinks everyone else is perfect. So I got to stay up with the Joneses, right? I got to stay up with the church Joneses, and then it creates this huge falsehood about church. So no one can be real. No one can make a mistake. No one's human in church anymore. That way, when someone actually shows their cards that they're human, everybody says, ooh, right? Shame on them. Yeah. When in actuality, shame on us, because we're all human.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the greatest, like, that's what's so great about being human, is that we're not perfect.
No, yeah. We gotta stop with that, right? It's okay. It's okay that we're human.
It's good that we're flawed.
Yes.
And I think it's better if we acknowledge that we're flawed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pathway to empathy.
Hello.
Yeah, to know that everyone's flawed.
Yeah.
And everyone's going through something.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And to know that about yourself means if I accept the grace about my humanity, I can grant that grace to other people's humanity. Yeah. But so what happens is, if I mess up as a human being, but I'm like, oh man, I should be like, I won't tell the truth about it, right? So if I don't tell the truth about it, then I keep building other lies on top of that. And what happens is all of a sudden I've built this huge Tower of Babel of lies. Yeah. And then when I make a mistake that is public, then it's like this huge fall from grace. Yeah. But the problem is it's because I have built these false towers in my life. Let's stop building these false towers. Oh, man. Let's be okay with being a human being and let God be God.
Yeah. Talking about real identity, you had a story about your mom loving ties and her hating you, not wearing ties.
Yeah.
And how was that like being your real self in the church and just dressing how you want, or like expressing your identity as a pastor? Because pastors are put in like a pedestal, right, in the church.
Yeah.
As you have to be the example, you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
How was that like?
When I got interviewed once for a church,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me about that. I said, because I am on a pedestal, I've got to be able to be the best Christian
Yeah.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
And being the best Christian is not the one who wears a suit. It's the one who has a good heart. And so I said, what I want to teach everyone who comes into a church is that you can come in as you are.
Yeah.
And the most important thing to us is that you have a transformed heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My mom, I always make fun of my mom because my mom and I are best friends.
Yeah.
And I could say all these things about her because she loved me regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She'd be mad. Yeah, she'd be mad I'm not wearing
Yeah.
a tie. You know, she'll complain. She'll hate my hair, but she loves me deeply. So we've got a deep, good relationship. I think pastors do a disservice to congregations when we are trying to play the role of a pastor and not just being a good Christian.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the best pastor when I love my wife well, faithfully, when I'm graceful and loving with my kids, when I care for my neighbor, when I preach good word of justice and equity and equality, and help the members become better at that. So that when a member comes to church, they don't have to be like, oh man, I've got to wear the best outfit I have, right? They can come to church and be like, you know what, I'm coming as I am. To a place where there's other human beings who allow Jesus to transform them every week.
I love that.
And that's what we got to do, right?
Yeah, I appreciate you, Pastor, for like strong handing that identity of just be yourself and just have a transformed heart rather than like good clothes, good cars, and whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is God to you?
What is God to me?
Yeah.
God is love. That's who God is to me. And God has shown up this way in my life so many different ways through so many people.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have gotten this far in life without God intercepting with different kinds of people. Conservative people, liberal people, white people, black people, Hispanics, rich folks, poor folks. They just keep showing up in my life and keep building me towards this trajectory of who I've become. And that's all because of God. God moved in their lives to move in my life to make me the person I am today. So it also reminds me I should be moving this way in people's lives. Oftentimes we pray, God, would you just do something about these problems? And God's like, yeah, that's why you're there. I want you to be the answer to these problems, right? Too often Christians, we kind of live in the abstract world of spirituality. Oh, let's just pray about this. Oh, I'm praying for you, brother. And I feel like God's also like, pray for them and then do something too.
Okay.
Like if we took care of each other, oh man.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Oh, I was part of a panel this Saturday, and we talked about patience. We talked about at what point do you take it into your own hands when you pray? Yeah. And I don't really know the answer to that. Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah.
But it's a great question.
Yeah.
Because there are times when we are praying and we're supposed to be still in God. And there are times when we're praying where God's like, I need you to be on the move. This is how I've worked my life. Yeah. Maybe you take this and go with it, bro.
Yeah, okay.
But if it fails, don't blame me.
Okay.
I always, when it comes to me, I pray about things. I pray about options. And then I move forward with the option I feel God is calling to me most, with the openness to say, God, if this is not the right way, I need you to close this door.
Okay.
And it has always been my experience that God has closed and opened the right doors at the right time. Oh. Always. The word says this. It says that if I'm in you and you are in me, then you can ask all things, right? And I think the key text there is that if God is in me, if Jesus is in me and I'm in Jesus. So if I've got this bonded relationship with Jesus, just like we were talking about parenting, trusting our kids with the decision, God trusts us to make decisions too. Oh. Right?
Yeah.
So when we pray about something, and we have a tight relationship with God, God trusts us to make decisions because he's leading us. He's leading our spirit, our heart, our mind. And as long as we stay open and say, God, I am open to your directing, and I move forward, God is going to direct you. He'll close up doors that need to be closed. I've never been disappointed when I get rejected by something. Never been disappointed.
I love that, Pastor.
No, I just know God didn't want me there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How would you define success?
Success for me looks like if my kids grow up to be good people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's done.
Love
Yeah.
it. So you grew up poor. I grew
Yeah.
up poor as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Living on food stamps.
Living the life, man.
Yeah. Unemployed parents.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
did that affect your identity? Of course it did. But in what way do you see it affect you like today?
Yeah, that's a great question,
Yeah.
Remo. It affected me in two ways, but it affected me in a good way. In that my parents never let us feel like we were super poor
Okay.
because there was so much love and support in the house. And no matter what, my parents always found food. Like even
yeah,
if it was
same.
like, tonight we're having donuts.
Yeah.
And we didn't know any different. Like, all right, donuts, you know. And my dad had a friend who was working at the donut shop who would hook him
Yeah,
up sometimes,
yeah.
you know. And that was just the way it was. Or a box of food from the church. And,
Yeah.
and it worked for us. So we never felt poor
Yeah.
in the home. We never felt like we lacked in the home.
Okay,
So the
that's
home
good.
was always a good, safe place.
Yeah.
But then there are realities of life where you know you're not the same as someone else. So like by the time I got to
Yeah.
college, I wasn't looking to be successful. Yeah, and I wasn't looking to graduate.
Yeah.
Some kids came in there who came from doctors' homes and lawyers' homes, and they were gonna graduate. They were going to graduate school. They were gonna go become a doctor. Me, I was like, I don't know what class I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I'm gonna be here.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a mentality that this was all going to be pulled away from me. So I never had the desire to strive for what I could strive for.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until graduate school when I finally settled in, I was like, oh shoot, man, I could do this.
Yeah.
You know, I got into honors. Like I'm in my doctoral program right now. I'm in honors.
Whoa.
And it was like a realization that I'm getting that like, dude, you can do these things.
Yeah.
Right. That maybe was missing from when I was young.
Yeah.
Because of being poor and feeling like,
Yeah. I think being poor for me, it made me resentful.
Yeah.
Because why do these kids have like these things and not me? Like, is God forgetting about me?
That's good.
And and I don't know. I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
With like, especially during high school or middle school, like fitting in with people. Like they talk about, oh, we just took a vacation with our boat, and like, what? What's that like?
The boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never knew what that was like, and that built up resentment within me. And I think I appreciate it because I am who I am right now, and I like who I am right now.
Yes.
And it's because of the struggles that my family and I went through.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I agree so much. We never took vacations. No. You know, what was a
What is
vacation,
that?
man? In fact, so my dad started a little gardening business. So every weekend, minus Sabbath, every weekend, every summer, we were working. If we weren't that, we loved school because it kept us from having to work with our dad. But when we weren't there after school, we were pushing a lawnmower.
Oh
we
my
were
goodness.
trimming trees.
too.
Yo, that's what we were doing. Like,
Yeah.
and when summertime would come back, all the kids were like, "Oh, we went to Hawaii." I was like, "Hawaii." I was pushing lawnmowers, right? And so even in college, when I couldn't get any federal grants, man, I was like, God, I'm so faithful to you. I love you so much. I'm doing all this stuff, and you're not hooking me up with nothing, God. I see all of these citizens, all my friends who are wasting it. Like they're going to party. I'm not even partying, God. Like, and they get such a free, easy. I was upset about that for a long time, and it wasn't until I graduated, like I shared last night, and paid off all my debts, and I don't have any student loans, that I realized what God was doing. Such a long journey to that place. But when I got there, I was like, God, I didn't even see this in the moment. But you were so good to me. Yeah. Like, so, I feel you, man.
Yeah. And I think that's our problem is that we limit God. We see him as such a small thing in our life and like, God, please do this right now.
Yeah.
But we don't see the bigger picture like God does.
Yes.
And
Yeah, well, because we're temporary, we're finite.
Yeah,
we have a shelf life, right? And so every minute for us in that moment feels like this is permanent. But God, he's eternal.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at this very small moment and this very small moment, and he says, "I got you. I got you." Right?
Yeah, and I think that's my identity with God right now is I find comfort in the fact that he's so vast. He's so all-encompassing. Yeah. It's like right now, this moment doesn't matter to him because I know there's something. He has a plan for me. Yeah. And through all the strife and tribulation, like poverty and all of that, it's just comforting.
Yeah.
to me how God does not care about that. Does not care about anything.
No.
He
He clothes the birds and the flowers, man.
Oh,
He's like, I got you.
Yeah. His vastness is just so comforting to me.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
But here's the beauty of being who we are. There's a book by Hart. His name is Hart, not Kevin, but I can't remember his first name. Theologian, and he writes about the privilege of being the minority, being the outcast, being the poor. He says the privilege that we have as poor people is that we get to see the privilege that the privileged have because they can't see it. You know, and he says, so when we're living from the undergird of wealthy people, they can't tell their privilege, but we can see all of it. So we've got a much wider or broader range of view and perspective, which also helps because we are, you know, like, when we get a little bit, we're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
We're cool. But when you deal with somebody with wealth, they have a sense of entitlement, right? They're like, well, why is da, 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 da? And we're like, this is good, man.
Yeah.
This is good. We'll be all right. Right? And so we have a better opportunity to be able to be foundationally helpful in the world because we're not shaken as much because we've been through there. Yeah. Right? We've seen that.
And again, that's the message of empathy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I just love it. Humans are awesome.
Yeah.
Even though we're flawed, we're awesome.
Of course. That's how God made us.
Yeah. You're here for Wise Week.
Wise Week, yes.
And I really enjoyed it so far. Cool. And the theme is Essential Jesus.
Yes.
Would you like to explain what Essential Jesus is to you?
Essential Jesus to me is like, what are the things that are essential to following Christ? What are the things that are essential to who Jesus is? Right. And those things can be just summarized in Jesus is love. Jesus is inclusive. Jesus is just. Jesus is good. And Jesus calls us to follow him. So like, that's just a summary of who Jesus is. Pick up your cross and come follow me. Love your enemies. And then you see him in action, right? Every story Jesus is in happens to be with somebody who's a social outcast. Whether it's a leper, whether it's children, a bleeding woman, the Syrophoenician woman with a daughter who was dying, the adulterous woman. And every time he's in these positions with these social outcasts, what he does, more than healing them, is demanding that the community moves them to the center of the community.
Yeah.
So no longer are they on the margin of the community. They are now part of the center of the community, which means Jesus is saying, look, I'm not just healing the individual, I'm healing the community to see value in people that we usually throw away. Right. And so the church should be the kind of place that says, that instead of throwing people away and saying, oh, you don't belong here, should be the very place that says, come, be here, because Jesus is here with us all.
Yeah. Like even outside the Bible, that message is such an important thing because inclusion is really important.
100.
And
100.
I'm sure you felt what it's like to be the outcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it hurts. Yeah.
You know what it's like to be on the outside of things and just not because you deserve to be on the outside, but just because you're seen a certain way. Hence why I don't wear suits and ties. I decided a long time ago, you know, I'm not going to impress anyone. My job here in this world is not to impress people. It's to love people. And as God leads, that's where I'm going to go. Right. And I do have one suit. It's for weddings and funerals.
Okay, nice.
It's in my closet.
What moments in your life made you realize that God is essential?
What moments in my life that made me realize God is essential? Remo, man, I've had so many of those moments.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
Crazy. It's crazy. I
mean, you talked about the $700 that you guys had to. Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, we had to raise $750. We and God met us at $750 and $5 back to my pastor. I mean, and that's just the little stuff. I'm not even talking about life things, right? Like where God showed up and was like, "Look, I'm going to make a way for you." Not getting deported. I can tell you how many times, like, I've been in life-threatening situations where God just opened the way out. You know, and it's like, boom, like, okay, I see you, God. God has shown up in my life in so many ways. And the thing is, what you have to do is you just have to be mindful of God, and you'll begin to see him doing these things in your life. Well, when I had my kids, that was big, man. Like seeing them being born, it's amazing, man. It's life-changing.
We talked about God a lot. How do you approach a situation where somebody who doesn't believe in God at all, maybe even hates God? How do you approach that and like try to share your message or
Sorry, I'm trying to hold myself together.
It's okay,
I got this weird cough. I caught it when I came to Canada.
It's the dryness here.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for welcoming me here with a cough.
For sure.
So people who don't believe in God doesn't bother me. And in fact, I believe everyone's on a spiritual journey whether they recognize it or not. Okay. And I believe everyone has an opportunity to run into Jesus one way or another. So my job isn't to convince you that God is alive.
Yeah.
Christians, we get that wrong all the time. God doesn't need us to be his bouncers. He doesn't need us to protect him. Yeah. If he did, he wouldn't be God, right? God is God, not us. So like, if it's my job to protect God, well then I'm God. So I leave God to be God. My job is to reflect Jesus in all I do. So when I run into people who don't believe in God, man, it doesn't bug me at all. We hang. Like in LA, that's all I did. If I wasn't with our church folks, some of our church folks who became church folks were previously non-God believers. And it wasn't about them not believing in the science of God. Oftentimes it was just like hurt feelings by the church, by a pastor, by a family member, right? And if God was like real, why are you acting like this? I could live better in my life somewhere else. And so, like, I don't have to prove God. Like, I just have to live God. And when I'm with people, that opportunity for them to get some of that experience. And then maybe later on they run into Remo and they get that experience again. And then they run into Ben, and then they run into someone else. And God begins to form people's lives. So I don't have to convert anyone. That's not my job. We don't have to convert people. That's God will convert. Just let him live through you, you know? That's how I deal with it. Yeah,
the first night your message was past, present, and future, living in the present. But for me, looking at my past is very important because it helps me learn from my past. So what would you teach your younger self, or like what would you tell your younger self if you had the opportunity?
If I had the opportunity, I wouldn't. Nah.
Okay.
I'd let my younger self learn everything the way I did because that's who I became. And that's pivotal, right?
Yeah.
Don't mess it up, man. Yeah. God knows what God's doing. And
that's the exact answer I would say.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the same person.
Because I am Iki.
I'm Remo.
I just love even though we've gone through so many things. We are who we are today. And we can always improve. Yeah. But I love.
But it could have been worse. So
could have been worse. Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's a good journey. I think it's a good journey.
Yeah. There's a question that's really good. Is the idea of how mental health is viewed in the Bible versus how it's viewed in the church. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So, the way that mental health is viewed in the Bible is not the same as it is viewed today. But we have to be clear, many things aren't the same in the Bible as they're viewed today. So it's hard, especially as pastors, we have to be careful that we don't create a bias or a system that didn't belong in the Bible. When I'm in the United States and we're talking about capitalism, right? Capitalism and socialism, those kind of words, those kind of economical, sociological systems didn't exist in the Bible. What we can do is live out Bible principles as best as we can in the systems we're in today. So that's a big difference, right? I think today we demonize mental health issues because it's something that we cannot see. Like you can see a broken leg, you can see, someone, broke their arm. You can tell that kind of brokenness. But when brokenness is inside, it's hard for us to see that. So it's hard for us to quantify. And Adventists, we like to quantify things. We're very cognitive. We like to talk about that kind of stuff. So mental health, because it's something we cannot see, we try to stay quiet about. And we need to be more upfront about that kind of stuff and talk about it. It's not just a matter of faith and praying enough that will change it. It's getting help. And it's okay for us to get help. It's funny to me how, like, people don't want to act like, people act like counseling is a bad thing. They don't want to talk about it. Do you go to therapy? I have faith in Jesus.
My parents are like that.
You know, like, yeah. We don't need therapy. We need Jesus. Truth is, Jesus actually gave that wisdom to people who are studying it. Remember we talked about the expression? People, exactly. Exactly. So when we find the expression of our faith in counseling, those are children of God who have the gifts and the tools to do what Jesus was doing in the Bible. So now we've got to be able to say, I trust that God is using these people to make us more whole and better. And we got to do that. It's not just about, I'm going to pray about this and have faith. It's also about, I'm going to get help, because that's what I would do if I was sick or if I was, had a broken arm. Or whatnot.
And you're right, because for God to use us, our heads have to be clear. Like, we have to be healthy, not only physically but mentally as well.
100%. 100%. And it's okay to go get counseling. If you're watching this or listening, go get counseling. There's ain't nothing wrong with it.
And you mentioned, like, guys crying, and you said, guys, if you need to, please cry. And I 100% relate to that, because there's like a notion that guys can't cry, right? And I think now it's a turn, because there's content creator out there. I don't know if you know Andrew Tate, but he's a content creator that encourages toxic masculinity and being like the alpha male or whatever.
Oh, he encourages that.
And I think it's a very toxic message.
Yeah, a guy wasn't loved enough.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people who hate women, is like, who hurt you? Mother? Right. And I think having the openness to just talk about who hurt us or why are we like this, it's all about introspection.
It's important to know that toxic masculinity comes from an insecurity. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from strength. It doesn't come from you knowing yourself better. It actually comes from you not understanding yourself and feeling insecure about things about you. So you've got to somehow prove your manhood. That's all it is. I got to prove my manhood. When you got to prove your manhood, you're not a man. Right?
Tell him, Pastor.
If you're a man, you ain't got to prove it. So this is the problem with toxic masculinity. And we got to get over this. The world needs more men to cry and more men to be empathetic and more men to be kind and become along women and be allies to women's strength as well. And we need to be okay with that.
And I think focusing on our differences is counterintuitive. I think it's better if you focus on our similarities and the synergies that we have, not just for men and women, but for everything, for race, for for everything.
I think there's an importance in celebrating our diversity, but not using that as a crux between us,
as
right?
a divider.
Like, as a divider, right. Yeah, that's important.
How's life in LA?
Life in LA is real. But I'm not in LA anymore. So I'm in Riverside. Riverside's like an hour east of LA. And it's hot as all get out. I think last week was like, the high was like 112 Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's a lot. It's a lot in Celsius. Bet. I think there's a 60 or some odd degree difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So it might look like something like, I don't know, 60 degrees, 56 Celsius or something like that. Something ridiculously hot.
You said you lived in the city when you were a kid. How was that? In LA, right?
Yeah, that was good. It was good. We settled in down in Compton when we first lived there, and then we moved just to the surrounding areas right around there, Gardena, Torrance. We were in LA for a while, and East LA. And as a kid, you didn't know any different. And I lived with my parents who were very good and loving, and so we didn't know. But I'm sure my parents every day were praying real hard, dear Jesus.
This is rough out there, huh?
It could be,
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's just regular. It's different for different people. Like if you come from a wealthy place, you
Right.
probably wouldn't want to live in
Oh,
this
you're
particular
right.
place, right?
Yeah.
But if you live in this place, you don't know any better, and it's just fine. So.
Yeah. What life lessons have you learned recently?
Recently,
Yeah.
oh man, life lessons that learned recently, bro. You're really challenging me here. So I've been a parent now for like 9 years, and I found that I did not understand life as I thought I understood it until I had kids. It's a learning process, and like every day I'm learning something where I'm like, man, God, I didn't know that about myself or about others.
Yeah.
And it always comes through my kids, you know, and they're always teaching me something. They're
It's a whole ball field, huh? Yeah.
Yo, man. And like, they're, you know, kids are like this. They're like, I hate life. Ah, la, 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 la. Ah. And you're like, and then you get angry. So you're like, okay, that's it. You're in trouble. And then they turn around to you and they're like, why are you so angry? And you're like, what? Yeah, Dad, why are you overreacting right now? You know, and you're like, dude, you just set me off. And, you know, so like they're up and then they're down and they're over it. And then like you're left in this place where you're like tense the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought, man, I'm a patient guy, man, I'm loving. And then I had kids and I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus, I'm growing.
Yeah.
You know, help me in patience.
Does being a parent kind of give you a perspective on what God is like? Yes,
100%.
Yeah, because a child, right? They don't know their future. They don't know that everything's gonna be all right. They just focus on the moment
In
right
that
now.
moment, yeah. And my kids are just like that. Like they love wherever they go so much that they won't want to leave. So like if I planned out a day and I know like, oh, in the afternoon we're gonna go do something really fun, but they settled in the noontime over here at my brother's house, they won't want to leave. Right. And I'll say, hey, time to go. Let's get in the car. And they're like, no, why? Dad, you just don't love us. This is the best place. And I'm like, and I'm always like, dude, if you only know where we were going, you'd already be in the car.
Just
you know,
like God.
Yeah, I know. Exactly like God. And every time we get into something like this, it always reminds me, dude, this is what God must be going through on a much more infinite level.
Oh,
right?
my goodness.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow. What advice would you have for someone who's struggling with their identity, making connections? Because I feel like, especially now in this day and age, it's kind of hard to make connections because everyone's so connected.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I feel like everything we hide behind social media, and we put ourselves in, like, everything in Instagram is just our highlight. And when people see that highlight and then they see the real us, it's kind of it's different. That's why it's kind of hard to make connections, because we see them as their persona on social media. Oh yeah,
you're right, bro. This is the plague that your generation has to work through, right? Like we lived before that kind of stuff, so we kind of are like, nah. And then we're old and Dudley, but in your generation, you have to deal with that. And my thing is, don't always put the highlights of your life, because that's what everyone does, and it's not real. So I'm always putting up stuff on my page, on my social media stuff, that it's just like real life stuff. You know, some of it's cool, some of it's not, some of it's filtered, some of it's not. Yeah. Because I don't want people like, oh man, I want to be with him wherever he goes, and then they come and they're like, where are we going? And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna sit on the couch.
Yeah, it's boring.
Like
real
life is
boring.
Super boring, right? Like I'd much rather be real with less followers than not be me and have a ton of followers. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, your followership is not the same as your community. And pastors need to be clear of that too, right?
Explain
what we're trying to do is we want to grow community. We don't want to grow followers. A followership is people who like what they see that you're doing. A community is people who's involved in what you're doing. And there's a difference. Yeah. So we got to be about growing our community and not our followership. So just be aware of that. I mean, you know, grow good friends and go do things in life together, and don't always post it, or you know, if you post it, be real about your post.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I want to talk about love.
Love. Yes.
So good.
Let's go.
I know a lot of friends who are single and they're struggling
Yeah.
and in love. Like
Yeah.
we all yearn for love,
Yep.
but how do we know if that love is true, that love is right with another person? Yeah. When we meet another person, how do we know that they're right or they're for you?
Well, I would say this. That time tells love well. Now, when I talk to young ladies, I'm always like, listen, you cannot judge a man's words by his words. You got to judge it by his actions, right? If a guy says, I love you, it's one thing. If a guy shows you that he loves you through his actions, it's another thing. And so you have to be able to read people's actions. And I believe that's true for women as well. You know, if they say they love you or not. But oftentimes women will express their emotion of love towards someone because that is how they're feeling and that's what they want. But men, we're not as dialed into our words with our emotions. So it's easy. We could say something like, I love you, and not be dialed in so much emotionally, right? So I would say it's time. Like, you know, it's just the kind of person you want to be with. A counselor once told me, love is not enough. And I said, what? Because I was in a relationship, so I was getting counseling, because counseling is good for you. And he said, love is not enough. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, you could say you love someone, but does that person match you? Do they like the things you like? Will you be able to take care of each other financially? Or will all these other things get in the way of your love for each other, right? And so, long story short, I ended up breaking up with that person. and later on found my wife, who is absolutely amazing. So it's a matter of saying, I love this person. Does this person love me? Do they love God? Do they love their family? I always look for that. I'm always like, when I was dating, if that person didn't love their family, I was like, I'm out.
Biggest red flag for sure.
Yeah, because one day you're going to have a family. Will you love them? You know, will you love me as your family, right? So your relationship to your family matters to me. Will you love my family? So I like, we'd all hang out together. If they really got along with my sisters were like, they were like the signal. If my sisters liked this person, we were cool. If my sisters didn't, it was like, oh, can't do this. Can't do this.
Yeah, when I took moral philosophy, our professor said that love alone will not survive the relationship. It has to be trust. There has to be perseverance. There has to be all these things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if I think that love is not a feeling, but love is a choice.
Yes.
Do you agree with that, Pastor?
I do. And so there's this misnomer in the world, I believe, where people say, I fell in love at first sight. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that even a little bit. My wife and I differ. You know,
you can infatuate at first sight.
I'm like, no, you didn't, girl. Yeah, like there are things you could love about a person, but until you know somebody, you can't make a clear decision whether you love that person or not. I mean, you can love them in the sense of like, I love you in Jesus.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that kind of love, like that phileo kind of love. But you can't like love that person like in a deep gnosko kind of experiential love until you get to know that person. And then in that place, you can make a real firm decision. Because the love is not the stuff that's on the pretty side. The love is the ugly side stuff where like, I'm going to stick with you through this. And like, we're having a bad day or like, I lost my leg, but you're going to love me through it. Right. These kind of things where it's like deeper. It's a commitment, man.
Yeah. I said the statement in another episode. I said, love is right when it's easy. And what I mean by that is love is right when it's easy to do things for them, to care for them, to go through the hard things with them. Yeah. It's easy to go through the ugly stuff with them. Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think? I
agree. I also agree though that like there has to be a commitment where my love says even when it's not easy, I'm rolling with you. Right? Like and here's the thing. It's easy to find commonalities with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like me who travels a lot, who speaks a lot, who's in different spaces, find a lot of commonalities with a lot of people. And a lot of people find commonalities with me.
Yeah.
So in those spaces, I've got to be very clear that my connection, my intimate connection is a commitment to my wife, you know, and not just be like, oh, well, you know, her and I, man, we do like watching movies together, or her and I, we do have the same kind of flavor in this and that, right? Because there's a world of options out there for different people with different likes.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to say, this is my person. And no matter how I connect with others, because there are times in your life where it feels like you're not easily connecting with your partner, and it's easier to find commonalities with other people. At that point, you've got to be able to say, nope, this is my connection.
That is why love is a choice.
Hey, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And speaking of love, God is love. So
Yes.
the theme is just, it's amazing. Yeah.
You're right. That's it.
Yeah. So our time is up.
Yeah, this was good.
And I
This was
appreciate
good,
you
bro.
so much, Pastor.
Absolutely.
I love that I find commonality with you.
Yeah.
And I relate with you. And that's why you're such an amazing
Oh,
pastor.
thank you, man.
And thank you again for coming to Bourbon, to our school.
Yo, this is an amazing place.
Yeah, to speak for Wise.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your stories, your messages. And yeah, I resonate with them.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
sure a lot of people resonate with them as well.
Thanks, man.
And yeah, I wish you wouldn't go, but you have to go. Yeah.
We'll catch up again.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait to see what God's going to be doing with your
Yeah.
life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
What are
such
you
a
studying?
Wellness.
Yeah.
Bachelor's of Science.
All right. That's
Yeah.
awesome, bro.
And it's such a small world. Yeah, I know Pastor Ben. I really love him.
Oh, man, that's my hero. Man.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that
my
guy.
hero.
I
He's
love
cool.
that guy. Look,
Yeah.
I've been walking around, so if you have any photos or anything of him, I would love it.
Okay.
Because I use him on sermons regularly back at home. Because everybody loves him, right? So
Yeah.
like that, I love it. So if you got anything, any dirt, send it my way, bro.
I love that guy. I love you, Pastor.
Love you
Thank
too,
you
bro.
again for coming on.
No worries.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you again next time. Voice Remos. Bye-bye.
You're right on, bro. You're right on, man. I hope we're okay. Was that all right?
Yeah, that was awesome, Pastor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What you got going on after that?
How long have you been doing this?
I started like 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to have to subscribe, man.
Ah, thank you,
That's
Pastor. That
awesome.
means a lot. All right, Pastor.
Hey.
You're from LA, America,
I'm from LA.
land of the free. But you guys don't have poutine.
Ah.
Here you are.
Oh.
Cheese curds, gravy, and fries.
What?
That's how you do it.
All right. Let me see. Let me get into this. Now, is there? Oh, bro!
I
look
know.
at that, yo.
It's A&W, but it's not Quebec poutine.
So what's the difference?
I think I have a friend named Josh. He's from Quebec. I think the difference is
Quebec.
shout out to Quebec. I think the difference is the gravy. It's more lardy
Really?
out there, and the cheese is more squeaky.
Squeaky.
Yeah, you know
Okay.
it's good cheese curd when it squeaks.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yo, I just learned something today.
yeah.
All right.
And
So
it's
just dig in, or
pronounced
how's it
poutine.
Putin out there.
Poutine, yeah,
But here it's poutine.
yeah.
Ah.
The right way of saying it is poutine.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the right way?
Yeah, that's the right way.
Okay.
It's French, that's why.
To all my U.S. friends, check this out, man. We live in Canadian life right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yo. What's that made of?
The gravy?
Mhm.
Or, I actually don't know. I just eat it. Because it's good.
Hey, I'm not asking any questions right now. I'm just eating this. Ah.
It's good, right?
I wonder why this doesn't exist in the U.S.
Yeah. It's so good.
You all here may already know what this looks like. Us Americans, we don't.
Yeah, Ben knows what this looks like. Yeah.
Ben actually said to go to A&W and get their veggie burger.
Oh, yeah, it's really good.
Is it really?
Yeah, their Beyond Burger is
Yeah.
amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go today.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, man. Thanks for bringing me on, Remo. I really appreciate this.
Of course, Pastor.
Let me ask about your name. Is that your full name?
My full name is Remlek.
Remlek. Now, is that your dad and mom's name put together?
What? How do you
What?
know?
Come on, bro. Come on,
How
man.
do
I
you know?
these things.
What? Yeah, so Remle is backwards is Elmer. Yeah.
Nice.
And my middle name is Errol.
Uh-huh.
The CH in Remlek,
Uh-huh.
if you combine it with Errol, it's Cheryl. Yeah, so it's Remlek Errol.
Listen, only Filipinos know how to get creative like that.
My
Man.
God,
Only
that's so
Filipinos,
awesome.
yo.
Yeah.
My best friend, I've got a couple of best friends. I guess that's maybe that doesn't work since you got a couple. But one of my best friends
Yeah.
is Filipino, and he was born in Africa.
Whoa.
Yeah. But just the most amazing guy. So I hang with, there's quite a few Filipinos around me.
Yeah.
Not to mention my wife, who's number
Oh,
one.
yeah, your wife.
Yeah.
Number one.
Mm.
That's so cool that you just mentioned that. Yeah. But my nickname is Remo.
Remo, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And what's your first name? Your full name again?
Remlek Errol
Remlek. Errol.
Torres
Yeah.
Abduhalim.
Yeah. That makes complete sense.
Yeah. So my last name is actually Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were born in the south of the Philippines.
Yep.
There's a lot of Muslim there. Yeah.
Down in Jensen area?
Zamboanga.
Zamboanga, okay.
Yeah. So my dad's father was Muslim, but he converted.
Yeah. The Muslim population down there is quite large.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Pastor.
Hey, it was a pleasure.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. My pleasure. See ya.